I felt it was probably easier to do a video to talk about this exercise rather than write about it and show pictures. This exercise for mechanics is talking about a heavy object rising and falling. Now this axe rig here I got from iAnimate, and basically I just put a real simple control here, and this control is placed where it's placed because roughly that's where the center of gravity or center of mass would be. The blade would be very heavy in comparison to the handle. I just took it down a little bit, figured the handle has to weigh something. But this is, the reason it's here is this is where the axe would rotate if it was thrown or tossed in the air or what have you, because that is the center of mass. So that's what's important about that. So if we're talking about weight, what are the things that are going to affect that feeling of weight? Three things I can think of for this example would be the timing. How many frames am I going to have this axe do its thing? Also, I think the arc, a flat arc versus a higher arc, I think is going to make it feel like different weight. And in this example, the rotation of the axe, I think, can also help show some of the weight. The slower that it rotates, or the fewer times that it rotates, will probably feel heavier than if I have it spinning like crazy, right? So for the first example, we'll just throw this one up here. Axe doesn't feel particularly heavy. It's going all the way across the screen. It's spinning, I believe it's 2 rotations as it's going. I mean, it kind of does, but I think we can make it feel heavier than that. And real quick, I wanted to note 2 things when you're doing an exercise like this. In an exercise like this, translate Z, which in our case is going left to right across the screen, is a linear curve. There's no easing in or easing out. It's going at a constant speed across the screen. Also, rotate X is a linear curve. The rotations are not speeding up or slowing down as it's traveling across the screen. So let's see if we can make this feel heavier. And the first thing that I would do is I would change what we have going on here with our Z and maybe bring it in on either side, the starting and end points, so that the arc is higher or more extreme. So I'm going to take this beginning point and I'm going to move it in, and I'll say roughly there. And I'll take this end point and we'll move it in, say, roughly there. So doing that, we'll take a quick look at Y. Y is still pretty much the same shape. But if we play this, it already feels a little bit heavier. And the reason it feels a little bit heavier is because it's going through the same arc over a shorter distance, but still the same time, correct? Same amount of frames, I haven't changed that. The only thing I've changed is the distance that it travels during that time. Well, again, I think we can make this even slower. And first thing I'll do is maybe I'll knock down, I think I have this going, roughly 2 revolutions. Well, let's just make it 1 revolution. Let's just make it 360. So if we do that, I think this will make it feel even heavier, right? It does a little bit. But probably the biggest factor that's going to influence it is our translate Y. And one thing I can do here is I can get rid of all these keys right here and simply play with the weighted tangent of the peak. So if you want something to feel really, really heavy, you want it to spend more time up near the peak. You want it to go fast as it's traveling up there, stay near the peak in terms of height while it's up there, and come down fast. That's what's going to make it feel heavy. So in this case, I think I just want to make these a little more linear. So I think you can see this feels a lot heavier than any of the other iterations that we did before. So what are the things that we can take away from this exercise? I think primarily if you want something to feel heavy, the things that are going to affect it are the arc, in this case rotation, and certainly the timing. I did not mess with the timing on this particular example. It always stayed 46, 47 frames. But I could easily have shortened the timing or lengthened the timing to further influence how heavy this axe feels. Again, the primary influencer is really the translate Y arc and how much time that object spends at the top of the arc.